Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Forza Motorsport content. The truth is, the DeLorean was a bad car that looked cool. In this video, I'm going to cruise the 1982 DeLorean around and tell you exactly what made this awesome car a bad car. Even though it's a cool car, the DeLorean was badly built, slow, outdated, and unreliable. The DMC DeLorean is probably as famous as the Ferrari F40, the Lamborghini Countach, the Porsche 911, the Ford Mustang, but unlike these automotive icons, the DeLorean is not a good car. Released in 1981, the DeLorean represented the vision of John DeLorean. A vision that sought to build a sports car that was ethical, safe, fuel efficient, and long-lasting. The DeLorean was meant to be different, and although it achieved differentiation, the ambitious goals of the ethical sports car were not met. Due to the reality of the automotive industry, the cost of production, and the constraints of legislation and engineering, the DMC dream slowly fell apart. What was initially set out to be a mid-engine, fiberglass, rotary-powered sports car ended up being an underpowered, overweight V6 sports car with leaky gull-wing doors. Producing just 130 brake horsepower thanks to the US anti-smog equipment and weighing in at 2,718 pounds, the DeLorean ended up being a lot heavier and a lot less powerful than originally expected. The goal was for the car to produce at least 200 brake horsepower and to be made from fiberglass using a new and innovative molding process to give the car fantastic structural strength. So sure, it was a bit more sluggish than expected. Well, another huge problem was the quality control. The original plan was to produce 30,000 cars per year, but in reality, only 9,200 were made in total. Made by employees that were poorly trained in the assembling of cars, which led to the well-known quality control issues of this famous car. Failing electrical systems, sticking throttles, suspension issues, instruments playing up, batteries dying prematurely, leaky doors as mentioned before, incorrect wheel alignments. The automotive industry is one of the highest barriers to entry, and unless you have a lot of money to burn setting up, a new auto manufacturer is very likely to fail, which is exactly what happened to DMC. Furthermore, the DeLorean's price was a hefty $25,000, roughly $70,000 today, when it was originally planned to be sold for a much more affordable $12,000 back then. For a couple more $1,000s, one could buy a Porsche 911 instead, which was objectively a much better sports car. After a couple years of production, the faults were mostly ironed out and the cars were finally leaving the production line in acceptable conditions. Unfortunately, by then it was too late, as the DMC factory was placed into receivership in 1983, and John DeLorean was also hit with money laundering and drug trafficking charges. Of course, as we know, that wasn't the end of the DeLorean. Thanks to the resurgence brought upon by Back to the Future, Stephen Wynn resurrected the DeLorean Motor Company in 1995 and bought DeLorean's inventory. Now this new DMC, which is technically a separate company to the old DMC, is selling DeLoreans and official DeLorean parts to owners, keeping the legendary steel-body time-traveling cars on the road. Despite its fading plastic bumpers, totally unengaging performance, failing alternator, and unappealing price tag, the DeLorean lives on as one of the most iconic cars in history. Who knows what would have happened if it didn't have those cool gull-wing doors. So let's get into this DeLorean story a little more. John Z. DeLorean is arrested in a $24 million cocaine deal. On October 19, 1982, the automaker John Z. DeLorean is arrested and charged with conspiracy to obtain and distribute 55 pounds of cocaine. DeLorean was acquitted of the drug charges in August 1984, but his legal woes were only beginning. He soon went on trial for fraud and over the next 2 decades was forced to pay millions of dollars to creditors and lawyers. Nevertheless, DeLorean occupies an important place in automotive history. Thanks to its starring role in the 1985 film Back to the Future, his gull-wing sports car is one of the most famous cars in the world. DeLorean grew up in Detroit and began to work for Chrysler while he was still in college. His career was a promising one. He worked his way up the corporate ladder at General Motors, where he's credited with designing the GTO and the Firebird. He became a vice president in 1972, but he left the company just a year later to pursue his own business interests. In 1978, he started the DeLorean Motor Company in Northern Ireland. The British government, along with investors like Johnny Carson and Sammy Davis Jr., paid the bulk of his startup costs to build his dream car, the DMC-12, a sports car that was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Its stainless steel body was unpainted, its doors opened up, not out, and it had a 130 horsepower Renault engine and could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8 seconds. But not many people actually bought a DeLorean car. They were much too expensive. Each one cost $25,000 compared with $10,000 for the average car and $18,000 for a souped-up Corvette. The company's financial trouble, DeLorean's attorney argued, was the reason the FBI had been able to entrap him in the $24 million drug deal. The authorities knew he would do anything to save his business. DeLorean was already mired in legal problems by the time director Robert Zemeckis chose a DMC-12 to serve as Marty McFly's time machine in Back to the Future. Spielberg had originally planned to use an old refrigerator instead of a car, but had changed his mind at the last minute. The director liked the DeLorean's futuristic look, but more than that, he was worried that young fans of the movie might accidentally get stuck in refrigerators and freezers while playing make-believe. While the DeLorean's instant celebrity did not do much to revive its creator's fortunes, but it did grant John DeLorean a permanent footnote in pop culture history. This is the 1982 DMC-12 DeLorean. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more automotive history and car content.